Hello, everybody, and welcome to the live stream. Happy Friday, USA Slay all day. I hope you watched the opening ceremony of the Olympics. We're going to talk about it. I will show some clips. So, just to make sure you didn't miss Team USA and also my favorite highlight of the opening. But first and foremost, we're going to go through the news. So, today we're going to talk about the media narrative. I'm going to guide you through it. Make sure to stay cautious about the information you consume. Okay. And then we're going to talk about the Harris campaign updates. There's several endorsements. Also, we're going to talk about Trump's reaction and what happens in MAGAville. And then we finish up with some real news, also with Olympics and what to expect tomorrow from the First Lady's travel in Paris and what kind of events she will be attending. Hence, I will be covering. So, thank you so much for joining. First and foremost, let's talk about the media narrative. I've become infamous for this because I, like a broken record, I constantly point out the narrative and the pre planned notion when any coverage is gathered by the media. So this morning we woke up to New York Times saying Trump's leading. Donald Trump has led the 2024 race all year and he leads Kamala Harris today. And then they start pinpointing their polling 47% for Trump, 46 for Kamala Harris. Nobody accounts for the fact that it's been just a few days since she has announced her candidacy, since she became the presumptive nominee, and she doesn't even have VP yet. So what are we even talking about? Also, that isn't even true because they're referring to the white voters, right? They say that the polls point to potential weakness too. Harris appears to be worse fit with the electoral college than Biden. She's stronger among younger voters and voters of color, but weaker with older voters and white working class voters. And then they say, think of it this way: it's a bad trade for a Democrat to win more votes in California and fewer in Pennsylvania. As a result, Trump would win, same way as he won against Clinton. And here's my whole point. Wasn't it New York Times that demanded, harassed President Biden to pass the torch? Weren't they applauding that did happen? And New York Times is not alone. For instance, if we take, and by the way, some of you commented this footage, so thank you for that. Wall Street Journal has an opinion by the same author with a difference between July 9th and July 23rd. July 9th, Kamala Harris would be the best Democratic choice. And July 23rd, when she became the nominee, Kamala Harris isn't the change Democrats need. What do you want? The media wants clicks and shares and clickbait. That's what they want. They also want to provoke anxiety because that makes you more hungry and thirsty for this clickbait and the more titles and more articles and who said that, this she said that, oh my god, we're gonna lose, because that anxiety feeds their clicks and shares and hence brings money. But I really want you to stay vigilant and extra cautious about the information you consume, because that is that mental food that you put in your body. Same as you look what you eat, look what you read. Okay, because ultimately you decide what you click on and what you read. Now I shared this on X this morning, and the comments passed the wipe check, so everybody seems okay and sort of keeping their head on a swivel. But I really wanted to remind you to be vigilant and careful when you read certain things. Okay, so moving on. Let's talk about Harris campaign. There's few things that I will have to read out, but first and foremost, today, long awaited Obama's endorsement came through in terms of a video that was initially posted by the Harris campaign and then reshared by, of course, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. So take a look at the video and then we discuss it further.
Kamala.
Hello. Hi.
Hey there.
Oh, hi. You're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, Brock, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
You know, I'm glad they endorsed Kamala Harris, one way or another. I was rather looking for a written statement by them, posted by them. This, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm paranoid at this point, but or have paranoia. But it reminds me on this phone call at any like TV series where the actors are actually never in the same room and it's filmed on both on different days in different places. Um, I want to see them together. I want to see Obama say it. I want to see them literally on the road supporting Kamala Harris because they do have major influence. And I think they can do more and they should be doing more because that will add to legitimacy, but also to the hype, really. Because honestly, now we're experiencing this first level of excitement. She's young, she's upbeat, she's wise, she's complete difference and complete the opposite from Donald Trump. But if we saw more people united, because President Biden is not going to be traveling that much and being on campaign trail, and I'll share a bit about that in a second. But um, I would love to see them supporting her in person, not this kind of like TV series looking like shows or you know phone calls. Amen. Dr. Martin Pratt, thank you so much for joining and happy pre-birthday. I know you have birthday tomorrow. I saw it. Happy to see you at the phone call tomorrow. And we're going to talk about that too. So, for President Biden, it was shared from the White House that he is now considering to fill his schedule with more travel, for instance, to Africa, to Indo-Pacific, and of course, taking care of Israel and Gaza as much as also Ukraine. So, since his schedule has been freed up, since he's not running any longer, he is considering to do more for foreign policy, which is obviously would be very much welcome by everybody since he is such a holds such weight, right, and is so well respected by the leaders that he just hosted in during the NATO summit in Washington D.C. So this schedule is not official yet. They haven't scheduled or shared any details, but this is to be expected as we go into fall and winter. So, but then also Kamala Harris has a sort of like an unofficial ad. She joined series called Drag Race, where she spoke about some important issues. So take a look at the video.
Hi, everyone. It's Kamala Harris. Each day, we are seeing our rights and freedoms under attack, including the right of everyone to be who they are, love who they love, openly and with pride. So as we fight back against these attacks, let's all remember, no one is alone. We are all in this together, and your vote is your power. So please make sure your voice is heard this November and register to vote at vote.gov.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Now on with the show.
And remember, you better vote.
So fun. I love it that she's going on shows, that she's tapping into different segments of the voters and viewers. She's going on shows that any other candidate, would perhaps would reconsider. Imagine Biden going on Drag Race or Trump going on Drag Race. But I love it that she's exploring such venues and ideas because it certainly adds again to the hype that is needed. Young voters are voting for her and registering and in masses. Speaking of which, here's a readout. Today, 17 leading youth organizing groups announced their endorsement for Kamala Harris for president. In their endorsement, they cited the VP's leadership combating youth gun violence, passing the largest ever climate change legislation, reducing student loan debt, and fighting for a future where everyone has an opportunity to not just get by, but to get ahead. This joint endorsement from the nation's leading youth organizing groups follows the massive groundswell of support for the VP's candidacy, including endorsements from labor unions, advocacy groups, and dozens of Democratic elected officials. So, who are those groups? Some of them I see on Instagram, for instance. Some of them I've never heard of. So, the groups are Voters of Tomorrow, College Democrats of America, Young Democrats of America, High School Democrats of America, Planned Parenthood Action Fund, Leaders We Deserve, Brady's Team Enough, Students Demand Action, Junior Newtown Actions Alliance, Grassroots Democratic HQ, Path to Progress, Blue Future, Progress Lips, Voices of Gen Z, Dream for America, that's who I see on Instagram, Tour to Save Democracy, and Democratic Youth Coalition. So, youth is standing for Kamala Harris, and I really hope to see more of that visually, right? We want videos, we want endorsements, we want her visiting those groups and having interviews with young folks, YouTubers, even creators who have shown that they care about politics and policy, and who are not just there for a hype in terms of clicks and shares, as much as now the MSM turned out to be, but those who really care. Because, see, if we look at it, what they pointed out as a reason to endorse Kamala Harris is not because she has sassy hair and smile and makeup, because she's advocating for stopping gun violence, because she's caring about climate change and whatnot. So they do care. So let's respond to that. Now, also, over 40 former DOJ officials endorsed Kamala Harris for president and criticized Trump. Here's a readout. On Thursday, yesterday, more than 40 former Department of Justice officials who served under both Democratic and Republican administrations publicly endorsed VP Kamala Harris for president. They praised Harris as the best choice to defeat Donald Trump and lead the nation. This endorsement was made in a letter signed by notable figures, including former U.S. Attorney General, also acting U.S. Attorney General, along with other former Deputy Attorneys General and U.S. Attorneys. These leaders have held various senior roles within the Justice Department. Also, what they have stated is the letter emphasized the significance of this election for upholding the rule of law. Speaks for itself. The signatories commended Harris for her strong connections with law enforcement, her advocacy for American consumers, and her efforts to protect the public from exploitation. In contrast, they expressed grave concerns about former President Trump, citing his denial of the 2020 election results and the impact of extremely conservative Supreme Court justices who have undermined reproductive rights, weakened environmental protections, and afforded Trump substantial immunity for his actions in office. And see, this is important here because when the immunity ruling was announced, we haven't heard anybody from DOJ criticizing it. Obviously, because this is Supreme Court. You're not supposed to be criticizing Supreme Court, as much as Supreme Court should not be political. So President Biden has announced that he is planning, during the time left within his term, to address the issue of Supreme Court and restructure. Again, no details yet, but I think a change would be needed, not just expanding it, but maybe limiting how many justices that are appointed by a certain party can be appointed. So there is some sort of quota, some sort of balance. But again, let's see. Also, a rumor I've heard today about independence, right? Because we have to consider that as well. I'm not sure if you heard that, and this is a rumor because I haven't heard any facts. It's not written that RFK Jr. plans to suspend his campaign over the weekend and endorse Trump. But again, we saw the video where Trump literally offered him a job if he drops out. So I don't think this is would be news. But again, this is a rumor for what it is and for what it's worth right now. Another good development. So Black America rallies behind Kamala Harris for president. So since VP Harris announced her presidential candidacy, a powerful wave of support has emerged with Black leaders and communities leading the charge. This enthusiastic backing includes endorsements from President Obama, as I showed you, former First Lady Michelle Obama, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and Congressional Black Caucus, prominent Black celebrities, influential Black sororities and fraternities, and thousands of Black organizers and voters. In the first 3 days following President Biden's endorsement, Team Harris raised a historic $126 million, fueled significantly by Black organizers and voters. This surge in fundraising was highlighted by a record-breaking event where 44,000 Black women organizers participated in a Win with Black Women Zoom call. And congratulations if you were there. You're certainly part of history. They raised over $1.6 million on the call in just 3 hours. Also, more than 53,000 Black men joined Win with Black Men conference, which was on Monday, generating $1.3 million in 4 hours for the Harris campaign. Also, Divine Nine, which is a leading group of African American fraternities and sororities with millions of active members, has also announced a major push for voter registration following Harris endorsements. Meanwhile, let's consider what will happen to Black voters, to African American communities, to any people of color, and anyone who is not old and white and male. If Project 2025 were to be enacted, everybody will suffer. Literally everybody. You can just pinpoint any community. So, for that reason, it is quite important to point out that community seat, caucus seat, PAC seat, so it is important for us to see it too. And if you have any family member who's confused, give them a little briefing about the Project 2025 or direct them to that Google link that will explain it. And if you need one, contact me, I'll give you one. Since we're heading into the weekend and you probably have, family that you will see over the weekend. Also, now as we are heading into just 100 days before the election, the Harris campaign announced Weekend of Action Blitz that literally starts tomorrow. So this weekend, Harris for President campaign will kick off a weekend of action to mark 100-day countdown of Election Day. The initiative will feature a variety of events. Over 100,000 volunteers will participate in 2,300 events across battleground states, which is amazing. That's just over the weekend. Volunteers, organizers, surrogates will engage with voters to highlight Kamala Harris' vision for future, contrasting it with Donald Trump's dangerous agenda, Project 2025. So also what I've heard is on 27th, which is tomorrow, right, Saturday, in Carlisle, just days after Vice President Kamala Harris became the expected Democratic nominee, this official statement, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro will hold Harris for President a kickoff weekend event, which will mark those 100 days to election. Whether, again, this is sort of his audition for VP remains to be seen. I guess if he passes, then we know it was an audition. But if you're in Pennsylvania and you can join, please join and let us know what you think of him in person. Because I always think that as much as seeing somebody on television is good, seeing them in person is better. You certainly build your opinion and connection to it. And then July 30th, which is Tuesday, Kamala Harris will travel to Atlanta, which is her first travel to Georgia, but sixth visit to Georgia this year, but first as long as since she was announced to be the nominee. So it is interesting. If you're in Atlanta, go experience it. Let us know what you think. And just happy to see her traveling. So she will be traveling through the next week, and I'll post more on the schedules in the newsletters. So, okay. Now, let's talk a bit about DNC. And this is all for readout, and we have videos and pictures, okay? But this is important for me to deliver to you because I don't think it's being reported on. So, excuse me, I have to, okay? Now, today is also 34th anniversary of ADA, right? So, ADA, why is it important? Because it gave rights and it gave better conditions to people with disabilities. And if we may recall, the ADA, the act, was signed by George Bush, the older George Bush, in 1990 during a ceremony at the Rose Garden, if you see it here. So today, on the 34th anniversary of ADA being signed into law, the DNC, Democratic National Convention, announced several new accessibility milestones, including the construction of the first ADA compliant ramp in DNC history that provides direct access to convention floor. This is a custom, first of its kind ramp that the convention is building at the United Center to ensure delegates, media, volunteers, and guests who request accommodation can access the convention floor. My question is, why the heck did you wait 34 damn years? Why? And also, in contrast, RNC disinvited organizations that represented people with disabilities because they didn't want to accommodate them. That's a fact. But again, why are we waiting 34 years, DNC? So the following accommodations will also be available: designated accessible parking. And this is important if you headed to Chicago to DNC. Wheelchair accessible entrances, accessible restrooms, dedicated spaces at the United Center and McCormick Place for individuals with disabilities. So also what I put on Onest Network website is a full, very long article that President Biden today announced very important introductions into law, celebrating the 34th anniversary of ADA, but it really targets specific subgroups and whatnot. So please go to onestnetwork.com, ONEST network.com, and read the article. If this is of an interest to you, it's important to you, to your family members who might benefit from it, go and read, because today is a major day on that regard, but it's very long, so I don't want to have a full readout at this point. So let's talk about MAGAville for a second before we go into President and First Lady and Olympics and have a better mood before we finish off before the weekend. MAGAville, that cares about unity, cares about women, has very prominent voices. And by the way, day before yesterday, a memo leaked on X with the programming language for X that described that certain accounts shall not be limited, restricted, or canceled under any circumstances. This included Donald Trump, POTUS 45, Russia Foreign Ministry, Russia account, Russian politicians, Cobra Tate, which is this Tate guy, and of course Elon Musk and his fan accounts. Also some fan accounts that were already sort of debunked for not presenting real people. The account that posted that memo has been suspended immediately. Hence, I'm not showing you that screenshot or whatnot, because let's stay together for now. So this guy, Gunther, who's not Gunther, and he doesn't, represent whoever that photo depicts. But he says today, man, don't let your wife ruin America. Make sure they're voting for President Trump. So wives are just your subordinates. Just you instruct them what to do, what to think. What is happening? So it's not even about IVF and reproductive rights. You have to instruct your wife who to vote for, so she doesn't ruin America. Ruin America as to leaves the girls, women, young women, older women with rights to decide over their own bodies. How is that ruining? Very disgusting and disturbing. Also, Trump campaign partner, Charlie Kirk, who is officially working with the Trump campaign, gave an interview. Take a look.
The childless are the ones that are destroying the country. You could be good without children, but if you're bad, you probably don't have children. That is my rule for the decline of the West.
So Charlie doesn't have children either, but he's a male, a white male, so that's okay. You just have to get with the program. Don't be confused. How ridiculous is that? Also, he gave an interview, and actually, no, he interviewed J.D. Vance, where J.D. Vance said he would certainly introduce extra tax for those who don't have children, because those who have children should not be paying the same tax rate as those who do not. Nobody's considering that you can be donating or benefiting society in any other way. You are a burden for society if you don't have children. And now we're also cat ladies. I'm one of them. So meow to you if that's you. Now, Trump today met with Netanyahu. It's a private citizen meeting with an acting prime minister of Israel who just spoke in Washington, D.C., where in D.C., US government, including President of the United States and Vice President of the United States, have been negotiating the peace deal with Hamas to free the hostages and to start helping Gaza to rebuild. We talked about it already for 2 nights. I don't want to repeat myself. You know my stance. If not, watch the previous live streams. Now, he caused all kind of disturbance, and then he went to Mar-a-Lago. Now, the Logan Act, if you know what that means, would certainly apply here. A private individual should not be representing the government of the United States with an actual official. Because when Trump met with Johnson, the former UK's PM, well, the guy's former guy meeting former guy, they can talk about both being a Napoleon. Shitty, but okay. Now here, you are literally meeting with an acting PM. And I want to pay your attention, I want you to pay the attention to the photos. We don't know what they spoke about, hasn't been released yet. But let's take a look at the photos. Does anything strike you here? I don't see any band-aids, any bandages, anything. This is the right ear. Also, very scary look on Trump's end. Kind of reminds me on that look when he was talking to Putin in Helsinki. And a very happy and smirky Netanyahu. If you need a close-up, that is the look and that is the ear. So I do have questions. We still have not seen any report, any medical report, any official investigation outcome, anything. We just hear from Trump that it has been a bullet and Now, another fan of Trump, and certainly somebody who lives in Megaville, Lindsey Graham. So yesterday, I showed you a video of Director of FBI, Christopher Wray, sharing that he's not certain that it has been a bullet because they have accounted for all the bullets. That, by the way, killed 1 person and injured 2, critically injured 2. And so he thinks it's part of, a bullet. Could be glass, could be sharp, anything, right? So today, Lindsey Graham said, oh, hell no. I'm going to fight for Trump, even though, again, we have no medical reports that are credible. Aside from that thing with the doctor without license, the drunkard that wrote something, that also wrote something when Trump was in office. So let's not even consider that. He also says former doctor. So now, no medical reports, no investigation results, nothing. Now, Lindsey Graham writes this letter addressing the director of FBI. To quote, he writes, Dear Director Wray, as ranking member of the United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary, I believe it is very important for you to correct your testimony before Congress on Wednesday when you indicated it is uncertain whether President Trump was hit by a bullet, glass, or shrapnel. It is clear to everyone that President Trump survived an assassination attempt by millimeters, as the attempted assassin's bullet ripped the upper part of his ear. Lindsey? I mean, they call you Lady Graham, but whatever. It's Friday night. Maybe we should. That's the fun time, after midnight. Rip the upper part of the ear. And you are telling the director of FBI to correct himself? How dare he to say what he said because you believe it is clear? How is it clear? What is your clarity based on? Can you tell us, please? Is there any proof? I do have questions. I do have questions. I hope you do them. You have them too. Again, more about Trump. He is still not debating Kamala Harris. He sent this email. Again, July 25th, as you see here. Yesterday, I showed you the response, VP's response, that she's ready. She doesn't understand why he's backpedaling. But now his reason here is, given the continued political chaos surrounding crooked Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. Now, honey, weren't you supporting that chaos and sort of igniting it? Anyway, general election debate details cannot be finalized until Democrats formally decide on their nominee. There's a strong sense by many in the Democratic Party, namely Barack Hussein Obama, that Kamala Harris is a Marxist fraud, blah. Anyway, just say you're scared. Just say, I'm a convicted felon. This is a prosecutor. I will do it if I'm subpoenaed to do this, but I'm not going to do it freely on television when I'm trying to get elected to avoid going to jail on multiple counts. I would be crazy to go to this debate. Weren't you the one, Mr. Trump, who actually won some big support during the debate against Hillary Clinton back in the day, when you said, when asked, why don't you pay tax? You said, well, because I see the gray zone and I'm a good American. I follow the law, but I also find loopholes not to pay the tax. What am I, nuts? And everybody clapped and supported you. So why don't you stick with truth here? Why don't you say that you are afraid? Because you claim that you can shoot anybody on Fifth Avenue and survive and just even win. So why such less than ballsy now? Okay. Now, debate. Okay, so Pompeo, former MAGAville, actually still MAGAville, very pro-Putin, Russian asset, same as the previous administration. He wrote sort of an opinion piece about the plan for Ukraine. He called it a Trump peace plan for Ukraine. Meanwhile, if you read it, it's actually what David Urban and Mike Pompeo think the plan would be and should be. And so it's among the essentials, our Lend-Lease program, then revitalize NATO, they will demand everybody to pay 3% GDP to NATO and whatnot, and also will make sure Ukraine joins NATO and whatnot. So I want to just have a readout about the fact check in case you will be interested in reading this article or somebody will confront you with that. And this is sort of my plea to Ukrainians, because I see Ukrainian media, Ukrainian users, Ukrainian podcasters now saying, oh my God, if this is the real plan, I will literally, I'm quoting, buy a mega hat and wear it every day. Now, what indicated here that this is not a lie? First, that Putin will agree. Second, and that even Trump has even read this article. Fact check. Trump stated in this article, according to this article, which I doubt he even read, they would defund NATO. So, fact check. Trump actually really stated. Trump said he would defund NATO when it came to U.S. involvement, reducing price for oil, which they state here in this article that I doubt Trump read, reducing price for oil through partnership with Saudis. That's what they stated, to kick Russia's economy. In my opinion, factually, it is questionable. Because first of all, Saudis are partnering with China at this point. So how powerful would Trump be convincing them to start lowering prices for oil? And also how effective that would be for anybody in the world if the price for oil went down. So to state that Trump will push Saudis to work and with US and lower gas prices and oil price for oil, this is just nonsense, because they are now actually working with China on this. Allowing Ukraine to join NATO, that's what they state in this article, and demilitarize occupied areas, right? That will actually never happen or never be agreed to by Putin unless Putin is defeated. And how can Putin be defeated? Militarily and economically. So the same thing as our U.S. Treasury and Secretary Yellen suggested, right? Um, to use Russia's assets or Russian assets and profits on those assets, most importantly in the US, but also worldwide, to rebuild Ukraine, also closing banks and disabling Russia to trade in dollars, which already did happen. That's what tanked Russia's economy in ruble and whatnot a month ago. Those are the effective measures that can be convincing towards Putin. Just saying that now you have to leave Ukraine and Ukraine is joining NATO and now we all buy chewing gum and we'll be happy chewing together. This is just utopia. And this is what really aggravates me, that Ukrainians might even believe it. How can you believe somebody who has been lying nonstop and also says nonsense? And this article is just either utopia or somebody who's not informed or somebody who is paid by Russia to say such things to let everybody who's undecided in the US believe that this is a path forward. You know, they also said they will demilitarize Crimea while leaving it to Russia. Now, that will just postpone the further invasion. So, if you have a Googled map of Ukraine, Crimea has direct access to Black Sea. It's a half island. So now Russia literally has lost their navy because Ukraine hit it many, many times with a load of boo-boos. So now NATO ships, or NATO has an agreement with Russia to put NATO ships inside or in direction of Black Sea to patrol it and monitor the situation. So now leaving Crimea to Russia so they can just have a break and get their stuff there that has been destroyed by Ukraine will just postpone further conflict. So how is that solving anything? You know, but I speak about Russia in terms of being a terrorist state, but there are also legal issues with that as well. I mentioned that Russia is presiding over Security Council in the UN. Which absolutely makes no sense. But there is a video that has been put by Ukrainian government that in English that does explain even or questions the legitimacy of Russia not just presiding over UN Security Council, but being in the UN since the Soviet Union fell apart. And it does compare the situation to other countries, like, for instance, Czechoslovakia, where it became two countries and both had to audition pretty much to join UN. So I want you to watch this video. It's 1 minute, 57 seconds, but it's worth your time. So let's do it.
Russia's seat in the UN Security Council is illegal, much like its UN membership. Russia has assumed presidency at the UN Security Council, meanwhile committing terror and undermining security. A state called the Russian Federation doesn't exist in the current UN Charter at all. The General Assembly hasn't even voted it a member according to Article 4 after the USSR collapse.
I wonder if the Russian presence in the United Nations has ever been legitimate. Shall I put my glasses? Any country? Anyone voted for Russian membership?
Unlike Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia, that also split into separate states and were subject to similar legal procedure of admission, Russia avoided it. Finally, to become a UN member, a state must be peaceful, and it's a requirement.
That is the mission of the United Nations.
This string of violations has allowed the Kremlin to illegally sit at this table for more than 3 decades, exploit the UN as a platform for its propaganda, and use veto power to block any efforts it doesn't like.
Russia has vetoed a resolution authorizing the establishment of an international tribunal to prosecute those suspected of downing flight MH17 over East Ukraine.
Especially those aimed at countering Moscow's aggressive behavior, including its invasion of Ukraine.
Article 6 of the UN Charter clearly states that a member of the organization that systematically violates the principles established in this charter may be expelled from the organization by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council. Russia has no right to remain on the UN Security Council.
And you would think a country that constantly terrorizes other countries, neighbors, and not, still in Syria, still in Ukraine, still everywhere. So that country would still be in the UN, but now presiding over what? Security Council, and vetoing tribunal, like all kind of negotiations and all kind of policies and bills and acts. You think that would be questioned, but it isn't. So the question is why? For instance, if we compare it to European Union, you've heard of Orban, right? The leader of Hungary, who traveled to Moscow, who traveled to Beijing, who traveled to pretty much also Mar-a-Lago, to talk to dictators and aspiring dictators. Um, the Hungary, right, is presiding over European Union Committee right now, Council right now, and that stretches through 5 months. And so, what the countries are doing now? First, they said there will not be voting nor attending even a meeting that is hosted by Hungary, meaning they all have to vote unanimously, so no votes to be expected. So they cannot really influence the policies and pretty much the daily life, right, of European Union, so, or the Commission itself. Also, then Ukraine said, well, we will no longer allow Hungary, since you're so anti-Ukraine, we will no longer allow you to transport oil from Russia to Hungary through Ukraine. And now Hungary is suing Ukraine within European Union, stating that it is illegal, that they have paid for this oil, whatnot, because if they would have used their resources, it would only last for 90 days. And they sued Ukraine within European Union Commission, and European Union said no. Ukraine has the right to prohibit you to trade, and for that, those goods, right, to be transported through Ukraine, because Ukraine is a sovereign country. So now Hungary has to backpedal. Now, to say that anything could be done in the UN, absolutely. They can absolutely vote to restrict Russia's rights, to disable Russia from voting, or at least not to allow Russia to preside over Security Council, because that matters, because they organize meetings. They put certain bills and questions and policies to vote. They can obey, or they can, disregard certain things. So for that reason, it is important who is in charge of the Security Council, because, for instance, I showed you many times that, or several times, that they organize meetings where they talk about territorial integrity, and then they talk about Russia as being a victim. Meanwhile, they literally invaded Ukraine and are still there murdering people. So all this nonsense just stretches the time and does no good and waste money, waste time and waste money, Okay, on a better note, let's talk about the Olympics. But before even the Olympics started today with the official opening ceremony in Paris, and by the way, as long as I talk about it, comment how you like the opening ceremony. I think it was very different, to say the least. So let me know if you watched it and if you liked it. So, but before the ceremony started, in Europe, they have high-speed trains, and a lot of people use the trains to get to Paris, right? From England, from Italy, from Germany. So it is very much used as a method to travel. Not much so in the US, but within Europe, it's very much connected. It's high-speed train. It's very fast. Also very cost-effective, too. So some groups that are known for now targeted French high-speed rail network early Friday, delaying 800,000 travelers that were coming to Paris. Also delaying Olympic athletes who were coming to the ceremony. French officials denounced the attacks as criminal actions, but found no direct connection to the games. So they don't think this is any terrorist trying to disturb the process of the Olympic Games and whatnot. So it's not related, but it kind of is. So Paris prosecutors have launched a national investigation, noting that the crimes, which include property damage impacting the nation's fundamental interests, could lead to 10 to 20-year sentences. So one traveler who was traveling to London, again, not connected to Olympic opening ceremony, says it's an awful way to kick off the Olympics. She's 42, a traveler. Hello, dogs. I'm not in New York, so there are dogs. Okay. 42-year-old traveler was traveling from Paris to London and has traveled delayed, and there were major disruptions. So not just going into Paris, but all together. Okay. So now our first lady arrived in Paris yesterday. She left right away after President Biden's address to the nation. She traveled overnight to Paris. I covered it yesterday. She first met with the families of the American athletes. Then she visited a sports center where all the U.S. Teams are, or Team USA, and all the sports teams are hosted. And she passed the torch. She did sort of track and run activities and whatnot. So she met the athletes. And then today, before the opening ceremony, she was at the palace meeting the Macrons. And you can see it here. And by the way, President Biden, be careful. He's holding her all the time. He's touching her. I'm kidding. But very sweet picture. So she was greeted by Macrons very warmly, and there were 85 hats of state at the Palace Elysee. And here's a better picture, both all of them smiling. They went down the red carpet, met her halfway, embraced. Such a warm welcome. By the way, it's already third time that they're meeting this year. If you think about D-Day celebrations, where both President and First Lady traveled to Normandy in France and met Macrons and other heads of state, and of course at the NATO, where Macron alone traveled to Washington, D.C., and they met. So it's a continuous friendship. Now let's talk about the opening ceremony. I'm not sure if you watched it or not. It was different in the way that the athletes parade was on a river Seine. It was because you would think that the Olympic Games opening ceremonies at the stadium, and it's big, and then they usually have those figures, like the humans are running and presenting different pictures made out of you know what I mean? Like a lot of dancing and pictures, whatnot. This stretched out, and it was such a heavy rain that everybody was completely drenched. No fireworks, nothing of that regard, but all the athletes arrived on boats, and the visitors were watching only from the bridges. It was announced earlier that they heightened the security. Since any kind of terrorist attack would not be certainly welcome at the Olympics, and they wanted to be safe, so that sort of eliminated people to cheering, like standing by the river and cheering on the athletes. It was really sort of on the bridges. So these were the opening credits of the ceremony. Take a look. So it started daytime, it ended at night when it was dark, when they had a bit of a concert. They also had different performances. Lady Gaga performed on stairs while the athletes and boats were passing by. So, of course, from A to Z, they introduced every country. And here's Team USA. And the flag bearer was LeBron James. So it was artistic, to say the least. Performances were beautiful. Like they mixed heavy metal with like opera singers, but kind of also pinpointed to revolution. I think they wanted to really pinpoint the point of freedom and revolution. So, for instance, the opera singer was singing in front of a house where in every window was sort of a woman or a doll, like a woman that looked like former queen or whatnot, with the heads chopped off. And so was artistic, but kind of provocative, to say the least. So it was not the typical cheery atmosphere, but it had a point. They proved a point. They also showed how Notre Dame was rebuilt since the fires, and they had one gentleman jumping from roof to roof and bringing the Olympic fire, right? to the athletes, and then the athletes, when they were passing the torch pretty much, they were then also swimming on the river and then walking more, and so it took hours to set finally to open the Olympics and to set the fire, right? So here's also, of course, as the last delegation or last vote with athletes was the French team. So here's Team France. All right. So other team I want to pinpoint, because I'm Ukrainian born US citizen. So Ukrainian athletes were there, which is very touching because there were 120 Ukrainian athletes and over 400 have died in war fighting, and over 2,000 are currently fighting in the war. Hence, they cannot be in the Olympics. So those who made it, those who were there, 120 of them, certainly we're very happy about it. So take a look.
By Russia 4 days after the end of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics, Ukraine officials say over 3,000 athletes and other sports personnel have joined the armed forces. More than 400 athletes have been killed in the conflict as they share the vote.
So you've heard, over 400 athletes have been killed in the conflict, and not all were Olympic athletes, obviously, but they didn't even have a chance to compete to go to the Olympics. So certainly somber moment. But my favorite moment, and I'm biased in that, but my favorite moment was the performance by the one and only Celine Dion. And I want you to enjoy 1 minute of her performance, knowing what she's going through physically. That has been such a major accomplishment for her, an achievement. And she mentioned that she's solely following her purpose. And I think that really stood out. She performed atop of the Eiffel Tower. Please enjoy. It's just 1 minute of her out of her performance, which was longer than 3 minutes. By the way, no commentators, reporters could be even commenting upon her performance. Everybody was crying. Everybody was in awe, and this was certainly unexpected. We haven't heard that she will be performing before that. At least I didn't, but I don't cover entertainment. Also, starting tomorrow, or starting tonight, better yet, at 8 p.m. Eastern, which we're ready now, in a show of support for Team USA, the White House will be illuminated in red, white, and blue, with U.S. flags stationed alongside the North Portico to commemorate the opening ceremony of Paris 2024 Olympic Games. The display will continue each night from 8 to 11 p.m. through the closing ceremony on Sunday, August 11th. And by the way, the closing ceremony will be attended by the delegation. Headlining will be the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff. So also tomorrow, a bit more about the First Lady. She's still in Paris, and I will be documenting on that. First Lady Jill Biden will attend a brunch reception in Paris hosted by U.S. Ambassador Denise Bauer to celebrate the opening of the Olympic Games and look forward to the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. So 2028 Summer Olympics are in LA, so in the US. Following the reception, Dr. Biden will cheer on Team USA at various Olympic events. In the evening, she will join health, sports, and business leaders at an event focused on advancing women's sports and health innovation, showcasing the work of the White House Initiative on Women's Health research. Later, she will attend the Olympic swimming events in Nanterre, near Paris, I would say, to support Team USA. So, other funny news, we all have heard about the bats for the Olympians. Yes, they're made of carton. So here's a clip that shows how those athletes will be staying overnight. So allegedly, it's there to prevent them from having fun after midnight. So I'm not sure how that works since he was jumping on it. But if you're asking what the president did and if he is supporting Olympics, yes, he does, and yes, he did. So he left the White House today. Here's him and his sister Valerie sporting a USA, Team USA jacket made by Ralph Lauren. He was leaving with his, again, sister Valerie and his son Hunter. They were boarding the Marine One, and since then he has arrived in Camp David, where he will stay until Sunday, and then Sunday he will return back to the White House. So, in case over the weekend you hear that something, don't believe it. It's all good. He's fine. He's going to Camp David. He will wait for the First Lady to return and have some quality time together. But I want to encourage you, and by the way, we're done. It's a shorter one today. Encourage you to sign up for the newsletter. And if you ever wondered how this newsletter looks like, here's a few seconds for you to have a preview. It comes without music, by the way. Annoying, I know. But it's a newsletter with clips, with actual news, with briefing, with background information on background, meaning I don't talk about it too much and too often, but once embargo is lifted, I share it in an article so you can learn more about specific issues and really every night be sort of in the loop of what did happen that particular day. It's free. Go sign up. I really encourage you to do so because in case we are disconnected on this Bird app or YouTube or whatnot. So onest.substack.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, Onest Network, please follow. So there I created a specific playlist of all live streams that I'm doing so you don't have to search for every single video on X, and also all the clips and interviews, reports that I post on X separately. So there you have access to everything in one place. And so for everybody who is subscribed to onest.substack.com, which is free, I will invite you tonight in just a second to join me for a town hall meeting tomorrow where it will be short, positive-minded, quick, and informative. I really want to know from you your opinion, your likes and dislikes about current state of media, and what do you wish media to be? We talked about factual information, but what kind of reports, how frequently, in what format? So share as if you were in this candy store and you want to get whatever you want with no limits. Share what you want to have because Honest Network is expanding with more reporters that will present actual news. I cover the White House and security. NSC, National Security Council, but I can't spread myself everywhere. So there will be more faces, and how we will select them, I will also share tomorrow. And I say we because you will play a major part in it. So this is a media company not like no other, where you direct what you want to hear and from home, and we will make sure to deliver factual information. Somebody shared a negative comment on that saying, no journalist will ask people what they want to hear. In my opinion, the role of media is to serve you, the people, and to ask your questions and holding those responsible whom you have elected to represent your views as elected officials. So we are that middle piece, if you will, between you and the officials. We talk about politics, to ask the questions that interest you, to get the answers that matter to you, and to do it instantly, factually, and in the way that you can consume easily in terms of reading, listening, videos. So I want to hear from you what you wish, and then we'll make this happen and present something that you are proud of, calling your source of information, which will be free and accurate and instant and factual. So This is what is happening, and I would love to, and I would be very grateful to hear your opinion tomorrow. So I'll give an hour. If you haven't subscribed yet, again, honest.substack.com, at the HTTPS. Before that, join. It will be short. I will hear every single person share few things that I'm planning on that I don't want to be in this public domain, and let you go to have a beautiful weekend. In terms of live stream tomorrow, let's see how many news we get. I certainly would love to go live at 8 p.m. Saturday. I always go live Monday through Friday. Saturday is always this sort of mitch and match. If we do have enough news, I do come up live. If I have only news about First Lady in Paris, then I might record a video and just post it so you don't have to show up and sit there with me and can watch it anytime. So see you either tomorrow at 8 p.m. or on Monday at 8 p.m. Sunday's always off. So I go touch grass. Okay, so thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you tomorrow on this town hall meeting, which will be at 5 p.m. Eastern on Google Meet. You don't have to have a Gmail. This link will be open to anybody with any kind of email. Just join. It will not be recorded. It will not be live streamed. It's private. Just to hear your opinion. I will not quote you. I will not use this videos. There will be no videos, by the way. I'm not recording it. I will not use that for any advertisement or keep anything. This is just to get information to build what you will love. Simple as that. Okay? So thank you so much, and see you at the town hall tomorrow, and maybe even live here, but for sure on Monday at 8 p.m. Have a beautiful weekend. Stay safe.